Welcome back to the channel, everyone. If you're new here, this is the place where we break down football history, legacy, and the moments that define greatness. Drop a comment right now and tell me, where does Harry Kane rank among the greatest strikers you've ever seen? And if you love deep football storytelling, don't forget to like and subscribe. Today, we're talking about a moment that quietly changed the conversation forever. Harry Kane has reached 500 career goals. 500. That number isn't just impressive. It's historic. It places him in a category that only a handful of footballers in the history of the game have ever reached. But here's the thing most people are missing. 500 might not even be the most important part of the story, because Kane isn't done. And if he keeps going at this pace, we could be watching one of the greatest statistical careers football has ever seen unfold in real time. Let's start with what 500 goals actually means. This isn't a player who spent his entire career at one super club, surrounded by generational talent from day one. This is a striker who had to fight for loans, prove himself season after season, and carry teams through difficult periods. Many of those goals came when he was the main attacking threat the player defenders focused on, the one everyone knew would take the shot, and he still delivered, season after season, year after year. And now that he's reached 500, the big question becomes, what records are still within reach? The first and most obvious one is total career goals. 500 sounds massive, but in football history, it's not the ceiling. It's the gateway. If Kane stays healthy and plays at a high level into his mid to late 30s, 600 goals is realistic. 700? Not impossible. Think about that for a second. 700 career goals puts you into truly legendary territory. That's where the rarest names in football history live. That's the number where debates stop being about top striker of his generation and start becoming one of the greatest of all time. And Kane has something many strikers don't. His game doesn't rely only on speed. His intelligence, positioning, and passing ability mean he can adapt as he ages. We've already seen him evolve from a pure finisher into a complete forward who drops deep, creates chances, and controls the rhythm of attacks. Players like that last longer. Players like that keep scoring longer, which means every season adds more to that total. Now let's talk about the England record. He already became England's all-time top scorer. That alone secured his place in national history. But what comes next is even more interesting. He now has the chance to push that record so far ahead that it might not be touched for decades. Imagine Kane finishing with 80, 90, maybe even over 100 international goals. That kind of gap creates distance between generations. It becomes the kind of number future players chase but rarely reach. It turns into a permanent piece of football history. And there's more: international tournaments, World Cups, European Championships, big stages, big pressure. Kane has already delivered in these moments. Golden boots, knockout goals, captain's responsibility, leadership. But if he has one more major tournament where he scores heavily, he could set records for England in tournament goals, appearances, and influence. Those are the performances that build legends, not just statistics. And here's where things get really interesting. The Champions League, European nights define legacies. Goals in domestic leagues are important, but goals in Europe are remembered forever. If Kane continues to score consistently in the Champions League over the next several seasons, he could climb into the top ranks of all-time scorers in the competition. That list is full of icons. Breaking into that group isn't just about numbers. It's about delivering on the biggest nights against the strongest teams. And Kane has already proven he can do that. Another record that people aren't talking about enough is goal involvement, because Kane doesn't just score. He assists. He creates. He drops into midfield and dictates play. That means his total goal contributions, goals plus assists, could end up being one of the highest we've ever seen from a traditional striker. And that changes how people judge his career. It shows he wasn't just a finisher. He was the engine of attacks. But maybe the biggest record still ahead isn't a number, it's perception. For years, Kane carried the label of being a world-class striker without the trophies to match. Individual awards, yes. Golden boots, yes. Records, yes. But team trophies matter in football history debates. Now, that narrative is shifting. And if he keeps scoring at this level while competing for major titles, the story of his career could transform completely. Because when goals and trophies combine, that's when legacies become untouchable. And this 500-goal milestone might be the turning point where everything starts to accelerate. Asterisk, so now that Harry Kane has crossed 500 career goals, we have to start looking forward, not backward, because the next few years will define how high he really climbs. This is the phase of a career where numbers explode or slow down. And with Kane, there are strong reasons to believe they'll keep rising. First, let's talk about longevity. Some strikers peak early and fade fast. Their game depends on speed, explosive movement, and physical dominance. Once that declines, the goals slow down. Kane is different. His greatest weapon has always been his mind. His positioning, awareness, and timing make him dangerous even when he isn't sprinting past defenders. He knows where the space will be before it opens. He knows when to drop deep. He knows when to hold his run. That kind of intelligence doesn't disappear with age. That, if anything, it gets sharper. That means he could remain effective much longer than the average striker. And if he keeps scoring 20 to 30 goals a season for several more years, suddenly we're not talking about 500 anymore. We're talking about 600, 650, maybe even more. And once you cross those numbers, history starts calling. Another record within reach is the total goals scored in Europe across all competitions. Every Champions League campaign adds more opportunities. Every knockout round brings more big moments. Every deep run means more matches. And for a striker like Kane, more matches almost always mean more goals. That if he keeps playing at the top level, season after season, he could quietly climb into the highest scoring tier in European football history. Not overnight, not in one explosive year, but through consistency. That's been the story of his career. Consistency. While other strikers had dramatic peaks and drops, Kane built his reputation through reliability. Defenders knew what was coming. Teams planned around stopping him, and he still found the net. Now let's talk about a different kind of record, captaincy legacy. Kane hasn't just been a scorer for England. He's been the leader, the voice, the face of the national team for years. That matters. That if he continues to play major tournaments as captain, he could end up setting records for appearances as a national team leader. That creates a different kind of legacy, one built on responsibility, pressure, and expectation. And think about the impact of one defining tournament. Point one to all it takes is one unforgettable World Cup run. One moment, one winning goal in a semifinal, one final performance that delivers a trophy. If that happens, every single one of his records becomes more powerful, because suddenly the narrative changes from great striker to national hero who delivered when it mattered most. And that changes how history remembers you. There's also the club legacy angle. Reaching 500 goals shows endurance. But finishing a career with a massive number at one club or becoming one of the highest scorers in a club's history creates emotional weight. Fans remember that forever. Statues get built for that. Stories get told for generations for that. And Kane's style of professionalism, discipline, and steady improvement suggests he's the type of player who will keep adding to his numbers until the very end of his career. No drama, no chaos. Just goals, year after year. And here's a final record that might matter more than all the rest. Respect across eras. Football changes fast. Tactics evolve. Defenders get stronger. The game gets quicker. But players who score in multiple systems, under different managers, in different competitions, over long stretches of time, those players become timeless. Kane has scored in different roles, different formations, different styles of play. That ability to adapt might be his most important strength, because it means he isn't limited to one era of football. His numbers will stretch across many, and when future fans look back, they won't just see 500 goals, they'll see a career defined by discipline, consistency, and relentless output. And the most exciting part? This story isn't finished yet. He's still scoring, still climbing, still chasing numbers that once felt impossible, which means every new goal from here forward doesn't just add to his total. It adds to a legacy that's getting bigger with every single match.